Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Liberal economic policy can be summed up in 4 words: smaller paychecks, higher prices. Smaller paychecks come into effect January 1st when this government takes a bigger bite out of the paychecks that Canadians work so hard to earn, but higher prices are happening right now. Liberal deficits force the Bank of Canada to flood our economy with massive amounts of new money, and that is driving up the cost of everything.
Il semble avoir un problème probablement avec l'interprétation.
There seems to be a problem, probably with the interpretation. Is it working now?
It's working now. I'll have the honourable member restart.
Madam Speaker, the Liberal economic policy can be summed up in 4 words: smaller paychecks and higher prices. Smaller paychecks come into effect in the new year when this government takes a bigger bite out of the paychecks that Canadians work so hard to earn. But higher prices are here today. Because of Liberal deficits forcing the Bank of Canada to flood our economy with money, prices are at record highs. And hardworking mums and dads picking up groceries this weekend for the Thanksgiving meal are in for a sticker shock. Turkey is up 15%. Potatoes are up 22%. Those prices are going to rise even further after the government triples its carbon tax. So why won't this government give Canadians a break and cancel their plans to triple the carbon tax?
L'honorable ministre du Tourisme.
Madam Speaker, I have 4 words for Canadians. We have your backs. We've doubled the GST credit thanks to the Conservatives who flipped their idea to oppose us. Now they're supporting us. And guess what, Madam Speaker? They can see the light once again, and they can vote for dental supports. They can vote for housing supports. And I have 4 more words. Do the right thing. Vote for our bill.
The Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
They've got their hands in Canadians' back pocket, taking more and more out of the paychecks that Canadians work so hard to earn. And prices are continuing to rise because of this government. Any relief that Canadians may hope to experience will evaporate in a very short period of time as inflation continues to hurt Canadian families. So once again, we know that inflation is caused by Liberal deficits, and we know that prices are going to go up even more when they triple the carbon tax. So an easy way to help Canadians with the cost of living crisis that the costly coalition has caused is to cancel their plans to triple the carbon tax. Will they do it?
Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, in the middle of a global pandemic, with heat in the air caused by global warming, the residents of Edmonton Centre, in the middle of the last election, said to me, please fight climate change. The #1 thing every day on the doors. We've already got a 9% reduction in emissions in 2020. The plan is working, but I can tell you, Madam Speaker, the #1 thing that the Conservative opposition could do to help Canadians is to vote for C-31.
I just want to remind members, I was able to clearly hear the official opposition House Leader a while ago, but I was having difficulty hearing the answer from the Minister of Tourism. There are other opportunities to ask questions or make comments during question period, and I would just ask members to, unless they're being recognized, to please hold on. The Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
It's because Conservatives care about the environment that we fight the carbon tax, because it does not work, Madam Speaker. They have missed every single one of their emissions targets, but they are succeeding in making prices go even higher. Gas prices in markets across Ontario have risen 16 cents in just 2 days. Now, that is making it even more difficult to attend Thanksgiving dinners, as Canadians have to pay more to drive home or to fly. How much more will Canadians have to pay after they triple the carbon tax?
L'Honorable Ministre du Tourisme.
Madam Speaker, the Conservative opposition has a golden opportunity to provide a Thanksgiving gift to Canadians and to 500,000 Canadians who would benefit from the dental supports that we have put on the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, what is it that the Conservative opposition has against kids in Canada getting dental care? Madam Speaker, they can see the light, they can do the right thing, they can vote for the bill and support Canadian families.
L'Honorable.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, the major problem for all families is inflation, and they've had to reduce their grocery budget to deal with it. The worst thing you can do is increase taxes and payroll taxes, but this government wants to triple the carbon tax. In Quebec, we have a carbon exchange. Can the government clearly tell Quebecers what impact the triple Liberal carbon tax is going to have on their pocketbooks? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, let's look at our record here on this side of the House when it comes to Canadians' taxes. In 2015, when we reduced taxes, the Conservatives voted against. They voted against every time. When we reduced taxes a third time, the Conservatives voted against. And once again, in this, what have the Conservatives done? They voted against every tax relief. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, if nothing changes on April 1st, these people will vote for tripling the Liberal carbon tax. We have a very simple solution, Madam Speaker. We want real answers for Quebecers. In Quebec, we have a carbon exchange. The Liberal government wants to triple the Liberal carbon tax on April 1st, 2023. So let's put politics aside and clearly give an answer. What will be the impact of the Liberals' tripled carbon tax on Quebecers as of April 1st? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, my honourable colleague knows full well that the price on pollution doesn't apply in Quebec. They have their own carbon exchange. But what we're trying to do here in this place is to keep working together. They supported us on the GST refund. Now we need their support for the dental care and rental relief. Will they support us, yes or no? The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Each time we ask the government about the failings of the Temporary Foreign Workers Program, they talk about the importance of immigration. Obviously, it's important, and that's why we need to deal with this problem. Companies need foreign workers to deal with the labor shortage, and foreign workers just simply want to earn a living, but they can't do this because of Ottawa's red tape. They simply want to work. When will the government process these claims in a reasonable time frame rather than breaking their promises?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion. Oh.
The interpreter cannot interpret while two people are speaking at the same time. Madam Speaker, the member knows that we have welcomed in record numbers of new immigrants and foreign workers. We know that we will continue to cooperate with Quebec so that Canada is a welcoming country in the interests of our communities and economy. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. They say they know what to do, but yesterday in the Montreal newspapers, there were still stories about companies and foreign workers that have been waiting for over a year. That's 1 year without workers for the companies and 1 year without wages for the workers. Everyone's losing out because this program isn't working. It shouldn't just be about serving good values. It should be about serving people. This government should take these processing delays seriously. When will they transfer the program, control over the program, to Quebec? The Honourable Immigration Minister.
Citoyenneté.
Madam Chair, the reality is this year, as a result of decisions we've taken to hire more workers, leverage technological solutions, and relax policy requirements, has led to the largest number of newcomers arriving in Canada, both permanent residents and temporary residents. There are more newcomers coming to fill key gaps in the labour force than ever before. We're going to continue to do everything we can to speed up the process because we believe it's good for Canada. Even this morning, Madam Speaker, I was able to launch a new policy that's going to allow international students to work more hours to contribute to the labour force shortage we're experiencing. It's good for our economy and it's good for our communities.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Families are already struggling to make their mortgage payments and their credit card payments, and the Bank of Canada plans to raise interest rates even more. This will lead to a self-inflicted recession that will cost hundreds of thousands of jobs. Now, the Liberals have refused to fix EI, and the Conservatives don't even want people to have EI. The reality is today that half of Canadians who lose their jobs don't have access to unemployment insurance. So when will Liberals wake up, do the right thing, fix EI so that families who lose their jobs have the supports when they need it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce and Disability Inclusion.
Madam Speaker, our government understands that EI benefits need to be more fair, more responsive, and more adaptable to the needs of Canada's evolving workforce. That's why we are committed to delivering a full-scale modernization of Canada's EI system. Although our temporary COVID support measures are winding down, regular EI benefits will continue to be available to workers, just as they were before the pandemic. We look forward to launching our long-term plan to improve Canada's EI system.
Good job.
Honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Alberta workers are taking the lead on a clean energy future, and they want to know why this Prime Minister is missing in action. They don't want aspirational talk. They want an industrial job strategy focused on unleashing the power of a clean energy future. This Prime Minister gives $18 billion a year in subsidies to big oil, and they're using that money for automation and cutting thousands of jobs. We've seen no similar commitment on the clean energy future. So where is the plan to work with the Alberta Federation of Labour on creating sustainable, good-paying union jobs in the West and across Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Madam Speaker, the member knows full well we work very closely not only with the Alberta Federation with Labour, but with workers from right across the country. I have said repeatedly that it will be no one other than workers who will be leading the so-called just transition, a phrase I always use very lightly because, frankly, workers don't particularly like the phrase. We are going to work together to make sure that we lower emissions and that we work towards a net zero and more prosperous future for all our oil industries, including the one in my province. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Madam Speaker, over half of Canadians can't feed their families and have to cut back on meat and fresh fruit and veggies. 1 in 5 go hungry, but this Prime Minister doesn't seem to care. Food bank use has tripled, but he still wants to triple the carbon tax and triple the cost to truck food to the store. Farmers, the food producers, can't make ends meet because the carbon tax costs them almost $40,000 a year more. That's just insane. Will the Prime Minister cancel his plan to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we absolutely care about Canadian families and Canadian farmers. We know the vital role that farmers play in feeding Canadians, and we value that tremendously. But let's be clear, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we have taken meaningful action, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit for families, whether it's lowering taxes for the middle class, whether it's bringing in early learning in childcare. And in fact, the Conservatives have an opportunity for the first time to support measures by supporting dental and rental supports. I hope we can count on them to support low-income Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Lakeland.
Madam Speaker, it's this NDP Liberal costly coalition that's driving up the prices of everything. Students are forced to live in homeless shelters. Young Canadians have almost $300 less at the end of the month compared to last year. Adults are stuck in their parents' basements because they have to spend more on taxes than on clothing, food, and housing. Half are $200 or less away from bankruptcy. Struggling seniors are forced to choose between heating and eating. So why won't the Liberals have a heart and cancel their triple tax hikes?
That's right.
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Speaker, if the Conservatives want to talk about having a heart, they actually have an opportunity to have one. We have measures on the floor of this House to help low-income Canadians with rental support and to help kids who need access to dental support to get it. For some reason, the Conservatives are against kids going to the dentist. For some reason, they're against helping low-income renters. I don't understand. They have an opportunity to demonstrate they have a heart for the first time this Parliament. I hope they do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Thank you very much. In response to my question in the Finance Committee, Tiff Macklin, the Governor of the Bank of Canada, said that the carbon tax is a significant driver in inflation. The carbon tax has led to food inflation going over 10%. So we have a heart because we want Canadians to be able to eat. When the government triples the carbon tax, what will food inflation go to? And how many Canadians will have to go to food banks then? Will it be 30%, 40%, 50%? How many Canadians have to go hungry before they cancel this carbon tax?
Madam Speaker, putting a price on pollution is the best market mechanism to fight the existential threat to our planet, which is climate change. Madam Speaker, it is working. In 2020 alone, we had a reduction of 8.9% of emissions. Madam Speaker, 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back from our rebate program. Everything from the other side, Madam Speaker, is simply hot air.
Honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Madam Speaker, with 62% of small businesses still carrying debt from the pandemic and 54% reporting below normal sales, raising any of their taxes is nothing short of cold-hearted. Yet the Liberal tax hikes will triple the carbon tax on transporting goods, triple the tax on heating storefronts, and triple the tax on cooking food on gas stoves. Will the Liberal government cancel their plans to triple the carbon tax on small businesses?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And this question is critically important because we know small businesses are drivers of the economy. What we've been doing consistently on this side of the House is proposing measures for the past 3 years that support our small business entrepreneurs, that help them keep their employees well paid and remunerated, and that help them keep the lights on. In particular, what we've done most recently is the Canada Digital Adoption Program. We know that the entrepreneurs of the future are moving more and more consistently online. That's why we're providing a $4 billion program to help them do it.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Madam Speaker, families in rural Saskatchewan are struggling with soaring costs due to the rising price of gas, which has increased the price of everything. With winter just around the corner, they know life is about to get even more expensive. Heating their homes is not a luxury. It seems this government is intent on freezing out Canadians by literally having them freeze. Will the Liberal government cancel their plans to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
You know, Mr. Speaker, what the Conservatives continuously fail to understand is that climate change is the single biggest threat to Canadians and Canadian families. I don't know if they missed what happened recently in Atlantic Canada or what happened recently in BC with the floods. These are significant events that have huge impacts on families. Mr. Speaker, they all ran on having a price on pollution in the last election. Let's see if they flip-flop again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Madam Speaker, last year, the Liberal member for Edmonton Centre stood next to Chief Billy Moran of Enoch Cree First Nation and promised funding to bring high-speed internet to Indigenous communities. Well, I just got off the phone with the chief. They applied for the funding, and this Liberal government denied their application. They told them that their internet was good enough. Well, the fact is, Enoch doesn't even have internet. When will these Liberal gatekeepers stop just posing for photo ops and reverse their decision to wrongfully exclude this Indigenous community and all other rural communities they betrayed?
Great question. Great question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Ministry of Indigenous Services.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Northern Canada is an iconic part of our country, given its beauty and the exceptional experiences people can have due to its geography and the impact of climate change. There are a number of challenges in our communities in providing high-speed internet. Since 2015, we've invested more than $350 million, and they will be connected soon. We're working so that all of Canada is connected by 2030. The honourable member for Repentigny. The government is using accounting tricks to hide the fact that it's still spending our money on Trans Mountain. In the spring, the Minister of Finance announced there would be no more government spending on the Trans Mountain pipeline. But West Coast environmental law says that just to pay the interest on the pipeline's debt, it's costing us $750 million this year and $800 million next year. By the end of 2023, the taxpayer's share of the pipeline costs will reach, brace yourself, Madam Speaker, $17 billion. How much will Quebecers have to pay for Canada to keep on polluting more and more?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources and to the Minister of Northern Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I think it's important for my colleague to remember that if you really want to address climate change, it means making bold moves and bold investments. When you consider projects like the TMX...
Oh, interpretation, I believe. C'est le problème encore une fois. Okay.
Is there a problem with interpretation again?
Working? Okay. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary can restart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to point out for my colleague that when you want to see climate change, that means you have to invest to make it happen. When you look at a comprehensive plan like we have as a government to address climate change, it considers projects like the TMX. It is focused on reducing the amount of oil that is being shipped by rail. It enables Canadians to secure full value for its oil resources. And going forward, we will continue to focus on the best climate change measures that we can implement to reduce emissions and fall in line with our net zero commitments.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Madam Speaker, okay, so the solution to climate change is more oil? We've known since day one that the Trans Mountain pipeline was not financially or environmentally viable, but we didn't know the taxpayer would be on the hook for $17 billion. Another $17 billion in public money will be invested in the oil sands right in the middle of a climate crisis. That's the price of letting the Government of Canada decide for us where to invest our money on climate change. Do they really think Quebecers would have chosen to sink their money into a failed pipeline in the West? The Honourable Minister of Finance, of Tourism, rather.
I know, as do Western MPs and all Canadians, that Canada needs to get its resources to market, particularly at a time when we need to help fuel the world. When we get our resources to market, it will help us get the world price of oil, which will help us to fund the transition to net zero. Our government does not intend to be a long-term owner of this asset. We will be moving forward with a divestment process, and it will be a good asset for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
This morning I took part in the annual food bank fill-up for the Brockville Area Food Bank. The executive director, Haley Jack, tells me that food bank use is at an all-time high. And with food price inflation at 40-year highs, even monetary donations aren't going as far as they should. Canadians just can't afford more taxes from this Liberal government. So will they today commit to cancelling their plan to triple the tax on gas, home heating, and groceries?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Madam Speaker, you know what Canadians can't afford? They can't afford for the Conservatives to keep slow walking on important legislation that will help them, whether that is support for low-income rentals, whether that's support for kids who need dental. These are things that will seriously help Canadian families and Canadians meet the high cost of living. We're pleased they finally did an about-face and are supporting us on the GST rebate, but we need their support on these other items if they truly care about helping Canadians. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, what Canadians need is an about-face from this Liberal government on their wasting of Canadian tax dollars like they did on the $54 million ArriveCan app that tech experts are confounded by it costing more than the low seven figures at worst. And we know that the app wasn't based in science. It was all based on dividing and stigmatizing. So if Canadian tech experts don't know why they spent this much money, what we want to know, what Canadians want to know is which Liberal insiders got rich on these contracts.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will make no apology for an app that saved the lives of tens of thousands of Canadians. This was part of a global health strategy in order to protect Canadians, and this app was put in place in April of 2020, 1 month after a global pandemic.
I'm sorry, I have my speakers on and I still can't hear the answer, and I don't think that the honourable member who asked the question is also able to hear the answer, so I would just ask members to please hold off. The honourable member for the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary can start from the top.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So this app was put in place 1 month after a global pandemic was declared. And in return for answering that question, where the honourable member has insinuated that the price is entirely related to developing the app, that price related to development, accessibility, and support, maintenance, and multiple different contracts. It was not related just to the development of the app.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Madam Speaker, Canadians can't afford this costly coalition between the Liberals and the NDP. We all know they want to triple the carbon tax. Now, the Globe and Mail has reported the government is on pace to more than double their spending on the disastrous ArriveCan app. This app has cost the Canadian tourism industry their 2022 summer tourism season. It has wreaked havoc on border communities, caused chaos at our airports, and it hurt Canada's reputation as a world-class tourism destination. Speaker, Canadians are wondering two things. Who got rich at their expense, and when will this government finally scrap this app?
Great question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, the government has already announced that the app is now not mandatory, it is voluntary. And so the app is put in place at the beginning of a pandemic to save lives. The app was used appropriately for the last 2 years, and now the government has allowed the app to be voluntary in order to expedite people moving forward at the border more quickly.
The honourable member for Mégantic L'Érable. Madam Speaker, the app was surely put in place to make some people rich, because $54 million would be 1 million hours of work for an engineer. That's 31,000 weeks, or 596 years for one person. The numbers just don't add up, Madam Speaker. The facts speak for themselves. The Liberals don't want to reveal who got rich. Is it someone on Liberal list?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker, we're not going to apologize for an app that saved lives. The app was put in place at the beginning of the pandemic to protect Canadians' lives, and thousands of lives were saved thanks to that app. Thank you.
London Fanshawe.
Canadians are worried about the effects of the climate emergency and Putin's illegal invasion into Ukraine. And now Canada's Chief of Defence Staff has made an unprecedented call to immediately halt non-essential activities in the armed forces. Our forces have a personnel crisis. 1 in 10 positions are unfilled, and we are only receiving half the applicants we need. On sexual misconduct, this government has failed to implement numerous judicial reports. When will this government take the real steps to properly invest in recruitment so Canadians can be supported abroad and here at home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Making sure that our Canadian Armed Forces have the right number of people, the capabilities, and the culture that they need to meet current and emerging threats is our highest priority. The Reconstitution Directive and Retention Strategy will help ensure that we can grow and retain talent so that our Canadian Armed Forces can continue to serve Canadians. We remain focused on enabling lasting culture change, creating the best recruitment practices, and procuring the right equipment for our Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
In yesterday's report of the Special Committee on Afghanistan, this government said they agree applications for Afghans who served Canada must be processed immediately. Yet Afghans who applied almost 2 years ago are still waiting for a response. And to make matters worse, the Liberals are sticking to an arbitrary cap and new applications are no longer being accepted. Meanwhile, I continue to receive urgent pleas from Afghans being hunted down by the Taliban. Some have disappeared. Will this government commit today to lift the arbitrary cap for Afghans and immediately expedite their processing?
Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship.
Madam Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question and her passion and advocacy on behalf of some of the most vulnerable people in the world. I share her concern about their vulnerability, and that's why we advanced one of the most substantial commitments, and in fact, the most substantial on a per capita basis, to resettle at least 40,000 Afghan refugees by the end of next year. I'm so pleased to share with this House, just a couple of weeks ago, we've actually crossed an important milestone and now have more than 20,000 Afghan refugees living safely in Canada. We are not done. We're going to continue to do everything we can and make good on our commitment, no matter what it takes.
For Calgary Skyview.
Madam Speaker, families in Calgary Skyview and across the province are struggling with the high cost of goods. Albertans are working hard to support their families with groceries, rent, and school supplies. On Friday, October the 14th, all Albertans will be receiving Fall Climate Action Incentive rebate checks, which for a family of 4 will amount to around $270. When you add up all the payments over the course of the year, it comes to over $1,070. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change please inform this House where else in Canada they are receiving these checks and what they are...
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member from Calgary Skyview for his climate advocacy, and he will know the federal pollution pricing system is a win-win. It puts more money back in families' pockets while fighting climate change. These quarterly payments add up to major support for families facing affordability challenges. Over the course of the year, a family of 4 will receive up to $745 in Ontario, $832 in Manitoba, $1,100 each in Alberta. This money is helping families make ends meet while helping build a healthy economic and environmental future for their kids.
Honourable député de Bellechasse.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis.
Aller chercher encore plus d'argent sur le chèque de paye des Canadiens. Les gens sont vraiment étranglés.
People are at the end of their tethers. The prices of houses have gone up by 21%, even just in the Quebec City, and a pound of butter has gone up. This is showing disrespect for Canadians. Will the government turn its back and scrap its plan to increase taxes?
Honourable Ministre de Tourisme.
The Honourable Tourism Minister. Madam Speaker, we are planning to lower taxes for Canadians, and when it comes to inflation, we want to make life more affordable for Canadians. It's very clear. We are going to reduce childcare costs. We're going to double the GST credit. We're giving a $500 supplement for housing, and we are going to give access to young, vulnerable children under the age of 12 to dental care. And so we want the Conservatives to help us pass Bill C-31.
Honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Madam Speaker, on top of record Liberal deficits, record inflation, a tripling of the carbon tax, now this tax and spend Liberal government is coming after workers' paychecks and taking more. This week we learned that the average Canadian family now spends more on taxes than they spend on the basic necessities of food, shelter and clothing combined. Madam Speaker, Canadians are desperate. Will this government give them a glimmer of hope and cancel their tax hikes on January 1st on workers' paychecks?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Madam Speaker, let's be clear what the member opposite and the Conservative Party are talking about. They're talking about employment insurance, and they're talking about the Canada Pension Plan. When we're talking about employment insurance, that is insurance that workers pay into in the event that they lose their job. Madam Speaker, the Conservatives are talking about slashing that fund. Madam Speaker, when we talk about Canada Pension Plan, that's something Canadians pay into to have retirement security. Madam Speaker, we've talked about the Conservatives having a heart. I hope they have one when it comes to people who lose their jobs and for Canadian retirees. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As families across Canada begin their Thanksgiving weekend, all they should be worried about is where they're going to get their favorite local pumpkin pie. But instead, they're worried about making ends meet. Why? Because the average Canadian family now spends more on taxes than they do on food, shelter, and clothing combined. The last thing they can afford are even more taxes. Will the Liberal government cancel their planned January 1st tax hikes on Canadian paychecks?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, what the Conservatives are talking about is cutting EI and cutting the Canada Pension Plan. Madam Speaker, these are two of the most important programs that we have in the social safety net in Canada. They support workers who lose their jobs and they support retirees. Madam Speaker, as we go into this Thanksgiving weekend, I hope that Conservatives can think about families and can think about the people that they would hurt if these measures don't move forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Langley-Aldergrove.
Madam Speaker, people in my community are deeply concerned about the rapid rise in the cost of living. The average Canadian family now pays more on taxes than on the basic necessities of life. And under this Liberal government, things are about to get worse with the tripling of the carbon tax, and on top of that, a hike in payroll taxes. Madam Speaker, the last thing Canadian families need is even more taxes to pay. Will this government commit to cancelling their plans to increase taxes on Canadian paychecks?
The Honourable Minister.
The fact of the matter is that EI premiums have been lower under this government than they were under any time when the Conservatives were in power under the Leader of the Opposition, Madam Speaker. The other fact of the matter is that this government has returned more money to the pockets of hard-working middle-class and low-income families than the Conservatives did. Canada Child Benefit, the tax cut for the middle class, support for early learning and child care, returning the carbon action rebate is another important one. And now the Conservatives have an opportunity to support us on rental and dental. I hope that they do.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Madam Speaker, the government will have to change its tone when it comes to Roxham Road. We have the right to ask why it allows people smugglers to continue to operate in a criminal way. We have the right to ask why it is making permanent a loophole that makes it possible to exploit asylum seekers. And we have the right to ask why it has taken years to process the claims of families who are seeking status. We have the right and the duty to do that. When will the government really address what's happening at Roxham Road rather than just spouting moralities to Quebecers?
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker, our asylum-seeking system must be robust. There is no magical solution. Closing Roxham Road is not a good solution. It will just change the problem, not solve it. So we are looking at the Safe Third Country Agreement. It makes it possible to continue to work with the provincial government in Quebec as well. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Madam Speaker, if the federal government were that humane, then it wouldn't be in the Supreme Court facing off with refugee claimants, because it's forcing people that should be coming in through the front door to come in through the back door, and that makes it possible for the refugees to be extorted by criminals at the border and then get intercepted by the RCMP. And so all of this is linked to the Safe Third Country Agreement. And so why is the government deciding to fight refugees in court rather than protecting families? The Honourable Minister.
Continue to work to improve the situation at Roxham Road, but we have international and domestic legal obligations that we are following to the letter. We are trying to process people in a humane way to recognize that human beings are coming into Canada are sometimes very vulnerable. We're going to meet our legal obligations while we work towards a permanent solution, which requires us to negotiate an agreement with the United States of America. We are seized with this issue. We're going to continue our work to make sure we abide by our obligations and do right by some of the vulnerable people who are seeking refuge here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, in June I asked the Public Safety Minister about equipping RCMP cruisers with defibrillators, which would cost only $10 million and save 300 lives per year. He responded that the RCMP have, quote, invested hundreds of millions in life-saving equipment, which begs the question, why doesn't the government take $10 million of those dollars and use them for the device that would, dollar for dollar, save the most lives by a wide margin? Here's the answer. Records show that the last time a minister bothered to speak to the department about defibrillators was when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister Finally, place defibrillators in RCMP cruisers and save 300 lives a year.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Madam Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his continued advocacy on this issue. Our priority is keeping Canadians safe, and we will continue to work with the RCMP to prioritize equipment and capabilities within the police service to ensure that Canadians are kept safe. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Albert Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, it has been reported that the Chinese Communist regime is operating at least 3 illegal police stations in Canada, threatening Chinese Canadians and even coercing some to return to China. As we learn more, what is this government doing about these illegal Chinese communist-sponsored police stations that constitute an assault on Canadian sovereignty?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Protecting the public from the threat of foreign interference is precisely what Canadians have mandated this government to do. Our national security agencies are proactively working on threats from foreign bad actors such as China. Any harassment, intimidation, and coercion by a foreign power will be investigated and appropriate charges will be laid. Canadians can rest assured that we will make sure no stone is unturned in our efforts to protect the public's safety and security. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Official Opposition.
Madame la Présidente. Madam Speaker, we already know that Iranian officers come here freely to harass Canadians. Why? Because the Liberal government does not have the courage to identify the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as what it is, a terrorist organization. And now we've heard that Chinese police is operating 3 illegal offices in Canada to intimidate Canadians. Did the government know that?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we will always stand firmly in support of women's rights and vulnerable communities around the world. We're horrified by Iran's actions and the murder of Mahsa Amini. There will be further consequences, and all options are on the table, Madam Speaker. We have the toughest and most comprehensive sanctions in the world against Iran. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Willowdale.
Madam Speaker, we appreciate that these are difficult times for Canadians and that our companies are experiencing significant labour shortages. It's time we recognize the significant contributions of international students. I can tell you in my riding of Willowdale, many international students are contributing to the growth of companies. I wanted to ask the Minister of Immigration if he could kindly inform the members of this House what he's doing to support international students and the growth of Canadian companies.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me begin by saying thank you to my honourable colleague for his advocacy to grow the Canadian economy and to support international students. Canada has had one of the strongest economic recoveries of any developed nation in the world when it comes to bouncing back from COVID-19. Despite the fact that we've recently hit near the lowest unemployment rate, there were nearly 1 million jobs available in the Canadian economy that we need to fill. There are 500,000 international students living in Canada who can make contributions. This morning I announced we are lifting the hourly cap that students can work who can make a difference to the Canadian economy. It's a great day for international students. It's a great day for the economy.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Madam Speaker, Hadas Najafi, 22, is dead. Serena Esmalzadeh, 16, is dead. Nika Shakarima, 16, died after telling a friend she was being chased by the IRGC. Her family was forced to lie publicly about her death. This bloodthirsty regime is clearly beyond the pale. Canada simply must do more. And so this is a very important question, Madam Speaker. At exactly what time today will this government finally do the right thing and list the IRGC as a terrorist entity?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, Canada will always stand with Iranian women and all those who support them, including human rights defenders. Canada stands with all those standing up for the rights in Iran and the family of those lost in the downing of PS 752. We have some of the toughest and most comprehensive sanctions in the world against Iran. The IRGC Quds Force is listed as a terrorist entity. Iran is listed as a state sponsor of terror. Madam Speaker, we will hold the regime of Iran accountable for its crimes. Thank you.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, I ask, is it a terrorist organization? It's been over 1,000 days and there's no decision yet. And during that time, this terrorist group has continued its activities legitimately here in Canada. I would like to remind you, however, that 55 Canadians died on flight PS 752. The IRGC, will it ever be recognized as a terrorist group, yes or no?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The status quo in Iran is dangerous. Women in Tehran are speaking up for their lives, for their rights, and their future, and as a woman, I stand with them. There will be further consequences, and all options are on the table when it comes to what our government is going to do when it comes to Iran.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Amid increasing protests that have erupted, this government have been cowardly silent on why terrorist listings have not taken place for the IRGC. Murder is defined as the unlawful, premeditated killing of one human by another. It is imperative that this House follow through on the 2018 motion. Liberals voted for it, but haven't acted. Open-ended declarations of solidarity with protesters is not enough. Madam Speaker, when will this government declare the IRGC as a terrorist regime?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When it comes to what our government is doing, I would hope that honourable members across the aisle would work with us and not try to politicize the issue. We are taking action. In fact, Canada has the toughest and most comprehensive sanctions in the world against Iran. There will be further consequences. All options are on the table. Heckling me and my answer is not going to come up with a solution. Working with us will.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know the Prime Minister and his cabinet work diligently in the best interest of Canadians. On behalf of my constituents of Don Valley North, I thank them. Speaker, the Organization of American States is the oldest regional organization in the world. This is an important avenue for advancing Canada's goal to increase economic opportunities, strengthen security and institutions. This week, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was in Peru to attend the 52nd regular session of the OAS. Can the Parliamentary Secretary inform this House of this important trip and its benefit on our relations with other American states? Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, through you, I'd like to thank the member for Don Valley North for that question. This week, the minister joined countries from across the hemisphere to address the challenges facing us all. She called for action in response to the human rights violations in Nicaragua and Venezuela. She pushed for solidarity with the Iranian women who are fighting for their future. And she held a discussion on the international response to the crisis in Haiti. Canada will always be there to promote and defend diversity, democracy, and human rights. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Madam Speaker, poor mental health is a top threat to kids, with suicide being a leading cause of death for teens. But this devastating reality can be changed with government action to improve access to mental health supports. Too many kids cannot access supports because of costs or wait lists that are months and often years long. Every day the government delays action is another day kids don't get the help they need. When will the Liberals put kids first and follow through on their promises to fix mental health backlogs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for her question. Obviously, suicide is something that we care deeply about. And we are working to improve the situation, and all of our thoughts are with families that have lost a loved one in recent times. It is important for Canadians to have access to the right services at the right time, and so we were working on setting up a 3-digit crisis line and a pan-Canadian service to fight suicide. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, 6 months ago on April 5th, 2022, 5 Canadian crew members of Pivot Airlines were detained in the Dominican Republic for the crime of trying to report a crime. Will Canada impress upon the Dominican Republic authorities that bad guys rarely inform the police of a crime that they're doing? Can Global Affairs Canada at least do the bare minimum of updating its travel advisory for that country from exercise a high degree of caution to don't go there? Almost 900,000 Canadians vacation and spend their tourist dollars in that country. They should go elsewhere and visit a country that respects the rule of law.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, I can assure my colleague that we are aware of the detention of Canadian citizens in the Dominican Republic. Madam Speaker, consular officials are providing assistance and are in contact with the families of the Canadian citizens. Our Prime Minister, as the member mentioned, questions about the Pivot case, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs have recently raised this situation with their Dominican counterparts. I am also directly engaged on this file. Madam Speaker, this is a priority for our government. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of question period. And for those who might be going home a little bit earlier, I wish them a happy Thanksgiving.
Tabling of documents.
Tabling of documents.
It is my duty to lay upon the table, pursuant to subsection 94(2) of the Access to Information Act and to subsection 72(2) of the Privacy Act, the reports of the Commissioner of Lobbying on the administration of these acts for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2022.
Just want to ask members who are exiting to please exit quietly. Pursuant to Standing Order 108 sub 3 sub H, these reports are deemed to have been permanently referred to the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics.
Introduction.
The introduction of government